Hello, everyone. I'm Joanna Daninas, and this is Truth Talk for March 30th, 2026. The topic for today is love's not supposed to hurt, especially those closest to us. We enter this world as children, as babies, and we're fully reliant on those that care for us. And what we don't know is that the people that are caring for us have their own challenges to face. And oftentimes, those challenges play out and they affect us as children. And it's not necessarily, I want to say not their fault, although we should be more cognizant of how we are around children. But nonetheless, we're human, right? We're not perfect. And so these things tend to happen, in a family unit quite often, right? We don't behave the way we want, right? We get stressed out. We don't like the outcomes. We have a lot of fears which project onto other people. um, Lots of things that intervene in our day-to-day life, and children, because they're reliant, they oftentimes have to accept these traumas and live with them, or learn to live with them. I'm going to say survive with them, because you get into survival mode. And what happens is our feelings then get buried and, I want to say, pushed down to the point where we don't address them. We tuck them away and we learn to survive and live regardless of those painful experiences. And what we don't realize is we carry these hurts with us. They're there, but they're kind of hidden, but they're there. And what happens is we go about our lives, and what we don't realize is that they do manifest in our day-to-day lives. And so when we become adults and then we decide to have our own families, and then we're faced with our own stresses, it causes us to act out and not in our best behavior. So what happens is we get into these families, these marriages that are unfortunately broken, and those we love and who we're supposed to trust end up crossing boundaries and hurting us. Our insecurities, our fears, our ego tends to take over, and we lose sight of how we're supposed to treat those that we love. And it's very sad because the cycle continues and repeats, often gets worse as more stress gets involved, more traumas, come to light. And we don't know how to address this. Now, yesterday I talked about, energy and not surrounding yourself around this negative energy, not allowing this energy to affect us. And essentially that is what we have to do. But it's kind of hard when you know, your family that you're birthed into, that's all you know, and that's kind of what you rely on. It's kind of hard, to separate, right? And then when you do, when you're an adult, let's say, you have to learn to navigate the world based on what you were taught or what you saw. And that's hard because it's all you know. So it's really up to us as adults to recognize perhaps the past hurts, the things that we buried, how we can turn things around so that we don't repeat history. And some people do. Um, some people, no matter how much they've been hurt, they find a way to transmute that negative energy and still care about other people and still try to do their very best to treat others well. And then there's people that are so hurt that they don't even realize how hurtful they can be to others, including their closest family members. And oftentimes they get into this survival mode and they turn to things that will pacify them, which turns into addictions. And those addictions just amplify, I think that's the word, but magnify, let's say that, magnify the situation and make things worse. And so there's this spiraling effect because we talked about energy when you have addictions and you let that negative energy in, perhaps you're letting in a negative energy attachment, and you see where this goes. We're talking about abuse, disrespect. It could be verbal, physical abuse. It could escalate to domestic violence. And so there's obviously worse degrees or worsening levels of all of this, but the principle's still the same. If we're not healed and we don't deal with our traumas from our childhood or our past, it plays out in our reality, in our current families, with the ones that we love. And we really have to be careful of this because your family, your home should be a safe haven. It should be a place where you can leave the outside world where it is and feel safe and protected. But when you come home and it's not that way, and there's turmoil and competition and envy and um, fears and you know this basically the sins of the world, right? The things that I'm going to say we fall short in, right? We could be better, but we're not. And so that appears in our day-to-day lives and affects our families and our children's, our partners, our spouses. So, I mean, this is something that we have to be very aware and cognizant of and try to prevent that from happening. I'm going to read First Corinthians. I'm not a Bible person at all. I don't even know if I'm going to say this right, but it's 13:4-7. And it says, love is very patient and kind, never jealous or envious, never boastful or proud, never haughty or selfish or rude. Love does not demand its own way. It is not irritable or touchy. It does not hold grudges and will hardly even notice when others do it wrong. It is never glad about injustice, but rejoices when truth wins out. If you love someone, you will be loyal, no matter the cost. That was given to me for as a wedding gift when I got married on November 28th, 1998. And it was given to me by a very dear friend, Elke Genzel, who has passed. And I remember when she gave it to me, and I remember being grateful and reading it several times and believing that this is the way marriage should be. But then you get into marriage, and then the person you love is not what you necessarily thought, but you want to make it work. So you keep at it. You love them and you let things go. You tell yourself it's not that bad. But you, yeah, instinctually you defend yourself, right? You then maybe protect yourself and act in ways that you don't want because you have your own hurts and traumas. And you become someone you don't want to be, but you're in survival mode. And you don't really realize that you have the power to make changes or to get out of the situation. But it's not easy because you have kids. And you want to have that safe environment for the kids, or you want to make sure that they have a two-parent home. So you do the best to hold it together. until they grow up. And then they start telling you that you probably shouldn't be married with your spouse that you've had 27 years with. And then you look back and you go, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I'm trying to hold it all together for my family, for my kids. And then you start really thinking about what matters in life. And as you get older, you just want more peace and you want harmony and you want happiness. And you do your learning and you're growing, you're evolving. And so what you used to tolerate, you no longer tolerate. You got wiser and you said, that's enough. I'm not doing this anymore. And you put your foot down. And then the person that could always just fly off the handle and do what they want and still manage to get away with it and somehow turn the tables on you, making you feel like you're the problem. They don't like it because they've lost control. And you do your very best to stick it out, but you feel violated. You feel you can no longer trust. And the intimacy is gone. And that really is a blow to a person's ego. So time passes by and you go to therapy. You think that might work, but truly, nothing's going to change unless a person changes, right? Unless a person does the work. And it takes two to be in a relationship. So, what you do is you have to harness your power within and no longer tolerate disrespect and stand firm and hope that you're dealing with someone who is not going to lose control. And then before you know it, you're filing for divorce. In those 27 years, they're just a distant memory. And you feel alone, but then you also know you're going to be okay because you choose you. You know that self love and self respect is most important, and no one is going to give that to you but you. So you stand firm, you set your boundaries, and you tell people how to treat you. And they either do or they don't. And if they don't, it's time for a change. And you hope that during this whole process, where your partner decides you're no longer of value and that technically you should be almost discarded, talked about in a bad way, to the point where you lose your relationship with your kids because they're fed a story that isn't quite the whole story. You just wake up and go, I don't know what happened. But you know why? Because when you look back in all those times that you ignored, tolerated, allowed, they somehow got the best of you, all in the name of love. So here's the deal. You have to love yourself. You have to care for yourself. You have to respect yourself. You are your number one person. And you determine who has a seat at your table. And you don't tolerate disrespect. You don't tolerate anyone that's going to cross a boundary that you've set. And you decide you're going to live a peaceful life, the life you deserve. And that's what we all should do. If anything, set an example for our children to know what love truly is and what it's not. No one's perfect. And we have to give grace, right? To ourselves and to others. But we must know, or we must remember that respect goes a long way. And that love without respect is not love. It is perhaps a convenience, something that we think is worth our while until it's not. Because love conquers all, love endures all. Love is patient, kind, understanding, accepting. And when those things are not, those pieces are missing, are not present, unfortunately, that's not love. And we have to remember we all are the same. We are one as part of a whole collective. And no one wants to be treated badly. No one wants to be disrespected. No one wants to be hurt. And we know that what we cause and effect, through cause and effect, what we give returns to us, right? The golden rule. The boomerang effect, right? What goes around comes around. The way we treat people does come back to us. So we have to learn to operate in a place of pure love. I know we're not perfect, but we have to try to think about others, not just ourselves, to treat others the way we want to be treated, to not live in fear, to not feel insecure, to not question ourselves and others, to distrust, to we have to learn to trust and verify, to okay, yes, we can get hurt, set a boundary, but learn to trust again. And if that doesn't work, set another boundary, but learn to trust again and stand firm in who we allow in our circle. And once we are in this high vibration that I talked about yesterday, we're going to attract good people. And the low vibrational love that we tolerated, we will no longer tolerate. And love in multitude magnifies, it spreads. You pay it forward. You receive love, you give love. You help someone, they'll help someone, right? You pay it forward. So if someone's hurt you or harmed you or disrespected you, love them, accept them, forgive them, but don't be around them because they don't deserve your energy. So I'm going to end it here. I was very vulnerable here, obviously, shared some emotion, shared some personal stuff that perhaps my family wouldn't want me to release. But I can assure you, it's the truth of what I'm going through. And I don't want to sound like I'm a victim because I was well aware of what was going on. And it wasn't that bad. I mean, there was disrespect and there was some verbal abuse, but it wasn't physical. But what it did is it's pain that turned to power. It taught me how to be strong, and I am strong. And I've learned a lot. And I'm going to take that with me into the next chapter. So it was not for nothing. And it was all meant to happen. It was meant to be. And I have faith in God, the universe, angels, saints, spirit guides. They're protecting me. And that's a good feeling. And perhaps the reason why we fall short is because we don't have that faith. So I'm grateful that I do. And I'm grateful for the protection and the strength that's given to me. So I wish you all love, peace, happiness, and strength to ensure that you have all those qualities. And I hope for a better tomorrow where we can all live our best lives and learn to really care for one another, not just selfishly think for just ourselves. And if we need help, we get it and we do the work. We don't run away from it. We don't push it down. We don't hide it. We don't mask it. We face it because the truth will set us free. And when we're honest with ourselves and we do the work, great things happen. So I hope you all have a great evening. It's 8:10 p.m. And until next time, goodbye.